Yeah, good morning, students. Today you have 12:10 to 1 hour class or any other subject. Who is the class representative for A session and B session? I think someone messaged now you have IPR. You have any other class or shall we proceed?
Ma'am, according to the updated timetable, we have IPR class now, but it is rescheduled.
Rescheduled means now you are free only.
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah.
Now you are free, so you can join the class now.
Yeah, ma'am.
Then you inform it to all other students. Because tomorrow, I think, as per the new schedule, we have 2 classes tomorrow, na? Morning as well as 8 o'clock one class. I think 9 o'clock one class, again 9 to 9:50, again 11 to 12. So we'll have one class today if you are free. Can you inform it to other students?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So please inform it to others. So we'll have one class today. The class representative, please inform it to other students because you don't have any class now. Na? Please join the class. The B session, who is the representative? Akshitawa.
Yeah, ma'am, already informed.
Okay. Yes. Shreya, please message me later, ma.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Yeah, good morning, students. In the previous class, we were discussing about object-oriented database management system and object relational database management system. No? So today's class, we'll discuss some basic and fundamental concepts of SQL and SQL commands like DDL, DML, and DCL commands, so that we can easily understand the advanced concepts of because if you understand the basic DBMS and the various aspects, it will be easy for you to understand the advanced concepts. But it is not in your syllabus. We'll have a simple revision. Okay, any doubt in the previous class portion? Up to which topic we covered in the previous class? I think we discussed objects and objects identity. Then we discussed RDBMS database design concepts. The difference between object relational database design. Then object identity also we discussed. The screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
I think in the previous class we discussed up to object query language. So object query language is same as SQL, so structured query language. So the same syntax and semantics what we use in SQL is used in OQL also. And we discussed am I audible to you, Shreya?
Yes, ma'am, audible.
Yes. So when we were discussing about object-oriented database management system, so the object-oriented database management system is based on the object-oriented concepts. So if you know, take object-oriented concepts, the object orientation was introduced in C++ language. Before that, the languages what we used like BASIC, Fortran, COBOL, Sybase, FoxPro. So those things are sequential languages. We used only structures and unions in C and up to C language. Then to represent the real-time objects and the real-time entities, we created the concept called classes. So the classes is an abstract data type. It's having the properties like a data encapsulation, data hiding, and a class is an abstract entity that can represent any real-world objects. It's having a number of attributes, and the functions associated with the real-world entity can be represented by using the member functions. So in classes, the class members and called the attributes and the class functions called member functions, both are encapsulated into a single entity. So we'll call it as data encapsulation. It means the member functions can only be used by the functions of the class, and the functions can make use of only the attributes of the class. So we cannot separate, we cannot make use of other attributes with the functions. And the same way, the functions will not use any other attributes. Both are encapsulated into a single entity. So if you take the capsule, within the capsule, you will find the medicine or powder of the medicine. If you take paracetamol or amoxicillin, so it is coming in the form of capsule. If you open the capsule, gelatin capsule, we can find the medicine in the powder form. So the same way, if you take the class is having a boundary or encapsulated form. Within the class, we have the attributes and the functions, member functions of the class can make use of only the attributes and the function. And the same way, the attributes can be used only by the member functions. So so we are implementing the data hiding concept. And if you create a class is only the declaration part. It is a static entity. If you create the instance of the class, we'll call it as object. So the objects can alone handle the values. If you store the values into the class, you will get an object. Say, for example, if you take the templates in the sense, if you take any blank application form, say if I want to open an account in a bank, so I will go and get the form or template. So when the template is blank, anybody can make use of the template. So the same way, class is a template. If I fill my data, the form application form will become mine. If some other student, Shreya, is filling the form, the application becomes Shreya's application form. So instance of the static class is called object. So the objects will have different values during different instance of the time. So the object-oriented database management system can make use of the classes. We can create classes using the DBM, OODBMS, and we can create the objects, and we can perform all other object-oriented operations, what we use in C++, Java, and Python in OODBMS also. Say like creating inheritance, say creating new classes or new objects from the existing base classes, and creating front functions, creating virtual functions, creating templates, or creating reusability, say polymorphism, operator overloading, operator overriding. So everything is possible with OODBMS in terms of object level. And same as in OODBMS, we are using a query language called OQL. The OQL is called Object Query Language. It was developed by Object Database Management Group, ODMG, and it is having the similar syntax as SQL. So in OQL also, we'll use the syntax like SQL, Structured Query Language. We have instructions now, DDL, DML, and DCL. DDL means data definition language, DCL means data control language, DML means data manipulation language. So definition purpose, we are using DDL, like create table and modify table, update table, alter table. And for manipulation purpose, we are using the data manipulation instructions like select where, and we are applying other constraints. And control purpose, we are using the control commands like delete, trap, all those things. The same instructions, same notations can be used in OQL also, like select from where class. And here OQL is allowing an aggregate operation called count to be applied to the list of compute, the length of the list. So if you are having a list, the length of the list can be counted by using OQL instruction. And the OQL instruction supports reference types, and it path expressions, and it supports abstract data types and inheritance, type extents, and the SQL style nested queries. So all those things, whatever we are using in SQL is possible with OQL also. Then we discussed what is ODMG, Object Database Management Group Data Model, and how the data model is proposing object definition language. So in SQL, we are having DDL. The same way in OQL, we are using ODL. This ODL is proposed by ODMG, Object Database Management Group. It's a data model of ODMG, is the basis for OODBMS, just like the relational database model of RDBMS. So in RDBMS, we are using SQL. In OODBMS, we are using OQL. Within OQL, we have ODL, OML, and OCL. The same way in RDBMS, we have DDL, DML, and DCL. A database contains a collection of objects which are similar to entities in the ER model. So in SQL, we are using entity relationship model. The same way, the OQL can also make use of ER entity relationship model to represent the entities and their relationship with other entities. The properties of class are specified using ODL and or the field kinds. So in object definition language, we have three types of properties. One is called attributes, second one is called relationships, third one is called methods. But in case of SQL, we have only entities and relationships. But here ODL, we have three properties. Attributes will represent the various elements or the data members of your object. And relationships are used to state the relationship between the primary key with other elements, how the tuples are interrelated. And methods represents the member functions. So same as in object, we have attributes, data members, methods called member functions. And the relationship between the attributes is represented by using the relationships concept. So any doubt with respect to what is OQL and how in OQL we are representing ODL? Any doubt? The screen is visible to you now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So we were discussing about ODMG's data model. So the data model, in the sense, it is the framework or methodology. The methodology used to represent objects in database management system is called ODMG. This ODMG is nothing but the abbreviation is Object Database Management System. Object Database Management System group. So it is like object management. You might have studied in OOPS, Object Oriented System Design, OMG, Object Management Group, proposed by Rampath and Bush and Jacobson. They proposed rational rows and UML tools. So the OQL, Object Query Language, is created by ODMG. It is same as SQL. In SQL, we have three types of commands. The same way in OQL also, we have three types of commands. The main difference between SQL and OQL is objects. In SQL, we cannot represent objects, but in OQL, we can represent objects. And here in the OQL, we have additional property called count. And the OQL can have the additional properties like reference types, path expressions, and inheritance. As we discussed, this ODL is object definition language. It is part of object query language OQL, and it is created by ODMG management group. And these ODL commands are very useful for representing the object-oriented database management systems. It is same as relational database management system. Here we have the additional features called object orientation. So object orientation, in the sense, we have the objects properties like attributes, methods, and relationships. The same as SQL, here also we are using ER, entity relationship diagram. So by using the ER models, we can represent the attributes, relationships, and the methods. Here, what is attribute means? Have an atomic type or a structured type. So attribute means a property, a single property. Say atomic, in the sense, it's not a complex data type, it's a single atomic data type. Say only we have serial number or USN. If you say the date of birth, it is a complex data type. Why? Because in date of birth, we have day, month, and year. The same way, if you take other data types like subjects in a semester, we have a number of subjects. So the attributes are nothing but the characteristics or the static definition of the variables. And it is a structured type in the sense it's having its return type and the size of the which type of variable it is, whether a numeric or a variable type or a alphanumeric type or floating point type, and the size of the object or size of the entity. Object definition language supports set, bag, list, array, and struct types constructors. So it is a constructor. Whenever we use those kind of variables, automatically the memory will be initialized. And the relationships have a type that is either a reference to object or a collection of such references. So the relationship is nothing but how the particular object is associated with the particular class. And the relationships captures how an object is related to one or more objects of the same class of a different class. So how one entity, say how the name is associated with the student, how the name is associated with the particular semester, how the name can be associated with the marks, internal marks. So that is called relationship. How one entity is related with another entity. And methods or functions that can apply to objects of the class. So if you have a class, the class is having attributes and methods. Attributes are the variables, methods are the functions. The functions can make use of the data members, and data members can make use of the member functions. The keyword interface is used to define a class. So here we are using the interface. Wherever we use the keyword interface, it means a class is going to be defined. For each interface, we can declare an extent, which is the name of the current set of objects of the class. So we'll create a class first. Then the class, say interface class name followed by extents means we are initializing an object of the particular class. Say for example, if you have struct student S1, S2, S3, where struct is the structure and student is the structure name. S1, S2, S3 are members of the structure. The same way, if you say class student S1, S2, S3, where student is the class name, class is the type of the class is the keyword, followed by S1, S2, S3 are objects of the class. The same way, we can create the instance of the class by making use of extend function. Then what is workul means? In workul,
can you explain extend once more?
Say for each interface, we can declare an extent, which is the name of the current set of objects of the particular class. So we have a class. The class is already declared and defined. So within the class, we have a number of attributes and a number of methods. And the class declaration part gives you only the structure of the class. So we are creating a blueprint, or we are creating a design of your class. Within the class, we will specify what are the attributes, whether the attribute is public, private, or protected type. And the same way, we'll mention the functions. We'll have the return type of the function, followed by the function name, followed by the number of arguments. So just we will give you the blueprint, or we'll give the design model of your class. If you want to create the objects or instance of your class, we'll go for extend function. So in a particular instance, the current set of objects, how many objects are created, what are the values we are storing in the particular object can be stated by using the extend function. So while seeing the syntax in the coding, while writing the OQL or SQL, you will come to know how we will specify the class name, followed by we'll have the extents, then we'll specify the instance. If you take the OQL, object query language, so the ODMG query language is called OQL. So the object database management groups query language is called object query language, was deliberately designed to have syntax similar to SQL. So the syntax of OQL and SQL both are same. In order to make it easy for users familiar with SQL to learn the OQL. So those who know the SQL, because the SQL is used a long time, more than I think SQL was introduced during 1980s, or it was introduced, started used by the Indians during 1995, I think so. Then we studied our engineering also. We had SQL. We studied Oracle. So it was almost more than 20 years old, more than 30 years old. We started using it. Many of the databases, especially the structured query languages, the relational database management system, we used SQL, PLSQL syntax. So they created the OQL also, but OQL was introduced almost 10 to 15 years back. The syntax and semantics of SQL and OQL both are same only, and they made it particularly the same. Why? Because those who are using SQL can easily learn and adapt to OQL. The same way, the syntax and semantics of C, C++, Java, Python, almost all are same. If you are very strong in C or C++, you can easily learn Java and Python. So almost all the database management systems like FoxPro, Sybase, DBase, SQL, PLSQL, Oracle, even Excel, the concept is same. All the database management system, everything is just rows and columns. And in older versions, we'll have, say, the Sybase, DBase, FoxPro will have very less number of functions. But the advanced one like SQL, PLSQL, or DBMS, we have additional features and additional, so that will support us for concurrency, that will support us for, that will easily eliminate duplications, primary key, foreign key, reference key, all those things will have additional features. But the syntax and semantics of both SQL and OQL are same only. So the OQL also supports the data types like a distinct, having. So distinct means like an intersection. I think you might have studied in statistics. We have one set, another set. So if you want to find out the common elements in both the sets, we'll use the having condition. So both the student A and student B, what is the common features? With respect to, if both are belongs to the same CSE branch, so then there will be more similarity. If the students are belongs to ECE or EEE, they will have a distinct. What are the subjects they are studying common, like open electives? What are the studying? They are studying core subjects and department electives. So they are the statistical constraints. Distinct means intersection, having means common, and explicit nesting of subqueries. So we can apply the queries and subqueries, especially explicit. Explicit means we'll say the words implicit and explicit. The constructors are implicit, or whenever we create an object, the implicit constructors will be automatically called. So the implicit constructors, what they will do, they will allocate the memory space and initialize the value. And if you want to write your own explicit constructors, and through the explicit constructors, we can deallocate memory, or we can assign some special or initial values. So whenever we create an object, automatically the implicit constructors will be called. The same way you might have studied implicit type conversion and explicit type conversion. Implicit means automatically one type of variable will be converted into another type. Say if the variable is integer type, and if you are using the variable integer in a mixed mode operation, if you are using integer and float together in a expression, automatically the result will be in a floating point. So if the system converts one type of variable into another type of variable, say the integer to float or float to integer, that is called implicit. We will call it as implicit conversion. And if you want to explicitly convert by using, say, float of integer, so you are using the keyword float explicitly to convert an integer variable, then it is called explicit type conversion. We'll call it as typecasting. The same way we can have the implicit as well as explicit nesting of functions, view definitions, and other SQL features. And here in OQL, we have query language proposed for object database management group object model. So this particular OQL is especially created for ODMG model. This OQL syntax for queries is similar to SQL, which is additional features of ODMG. So the syntax and semantics of SQL and OQL both are same, and it is proposed model of ODMG. So if you compare We will finish these slides. Then we'll have another slides where you will study what is the fundamental DBMS concepts, normalization concepts, the ODL, OML, DCL commands. We have another more explanatory concepts. The same fundamental concepts with more explanation. So the comparison between RDBMS with OODBMS and ORDBMS. So as we discussed, an RDBMS does not support the extensions to the relational model. So it is a very constrained one. It will support only DBMS and RDBMS. So the relationship between the entities can be stated by using relational database model, and the number of features are very less. It will not allow you to perform anything beyond the boundary, or it is having its own fixed framework. The simplicity of the data model makes it easier to optimize the queries for efficient execution. So the RDBMS, I think you might have studied microprocessors, 8085 microprocessor, 8080 processors. Then you might have studied Intel 8186, 286, 386, 486, Pentium 4, Pentium in octa-core, dual core. So the same way here we have DBMS, RDBMS, ORDBMS, OODBMS. Say if you take OODBMS, the RDBMS and ORDBMS is subset, and we can say OODBMS is superset. The same way within RDBMS, DBMS is subset. So whatever features we have in DBMS that can be used in RDBMS. Whatever of the features we have in RDBMS that can be used in ORDBMS. So the ORDBMS concepts can be used in OODBMS also. So the thing is, if you have the advanced features or versions or the improved version of the existing one is proposed in OODBMS. So the RDBMS is simple one. It's having its own framework and it's having its own set of queries. And relational systems is easy to use because there are fewer features to master. So in RDBMS, relational database management system, we have very less number of features and they are easy to understand, and that can be applied in the domain or any environment. It is very compact one. So we can, whatever is existing, whatever features they are offering, that we can make use efficiently. We cannot go for objects, or we cannot go for OODBMS. That is not possible. On the other hand, it is less versatile than an ORDBMS. So RDBMS is very less and it's not versatile one, but ORDBMS is having more features like object-oriented features. It is versatile one. So that is the main difference between RDBMS and ORDBMS. So RDBMS is a traditional one. It's having its own set of features, and it will support and it will work effectively for the given environment with only RDBMS concepts. It will not support anything beyond ORDB. It will not support any object concepts. And it is less simple and less features. And if you take the main difference between similarities, OODBMS and ORDBMS, both supports user-defined abstract data types, because we are using objects in ORDBMS as well as in OODBMS. So it's abstract data type. Why? Because we are using classes. Classes are abstract data types, and the instance of the classes are called objects. Both supports abstract data types and structured types. Structure is a subset of class, so it will automatically support all the structured features. Object identity, because we have classes, we have objects, so object identity is possible. And the reference types, we can create the reference types like extensions or the templates, the array of objects. And it supports inheritance also. So we can have base class, we can create a derived class, and we can have a grandchild class. So that is possible. So through inheritance, we are reusing the old classes. And we can create new classes with additional features. So these characteristics are possible with both, because both are supporting classes and objects. Both support a query language for manipulating the collection types. So if we have the collection types like a list, set, all those things, collection means we will pick some items. Say in Jain University, we have a fixed number of branches.
So we can choose any student from any branch. So we have the list of courses, list of open electives, list of core electives. So it means a predefined set of elements. So we can have collection types and list of elements. Both supports those kind of data types. The collection types are user defined types. So we have to define the data type, number of elements, the set, boundaries, everything we need to fix. ORDBMS supports an extended form of SQL, and OODBMS supports ODL and OQL. So in object relational database management system, we can make use of all the SQL statements, because here it is same as SQL, and the only extra feature is object. But here we are using object-oriented characteristics, object-oriented functions and features. So here we can make use of object definition language as well as object query language. So that is the main similarities between OODBMS and ORDBMS. Any doubt? Any doubt so far? So we discussed the compared RDBMS, OODBMS and ORDBMS. Here we compared the similarities between OODBMS and ORDBMS. If you take the main difference between OODBMS and ORDBMS, OODBMS try to add DBMS functionality to a programming language. So here the subset of OODBMS is DBMS. And here through the OODBMS, can you able to see the PPT screen?
Yes,
Shreya? Yeah, which slide you are seeing?
ODBMS versus ORDBMS.
Yes. So as we discussed, DBMS is a subset of OODBMS. So we are, if you add programming, object-oriented programming properties on DBMS, you will get OODBMS. So whereas ORDBMS is trying to add richer data types to the relational database management system. So here the basic construct is RDBMS. Along with RDBMS, we are adding objects to get the ORDBMS. Here the basic database is DBMS. With the DBMS, we are adding object-oriented programming properties like classes, inheritance, polymorphism, virtual functions, front functions. So the subset for OODBMS is DBMS, and here the subset for ORDBMS is RDBMS. So that is the main difference. And if you take OODBMS aims to achieve seamless integration with the programming languages such as C++, Java, and Smalltalk. So as we discussed, object orientation means the object-oriented concepts starts with C++, then in Java, then in Smalltalk, then in Python. So we can make use of all the executable statements and all the properties and constructs, whatever we are using in C++, Java, and Smalltalk. We can apply the code. We can create the embedded code. The programming part of C++, Java, and Smalltalk can be embedded with OODBMS. And if you take OODBMS is aimed to at applications where an object-centric viewpoint is appropriate. That is, typical user sessions consist of retrieving a few objects and working on them for longer periods with related objects. So here, the OODBMS is mainly focusing on object-centric. So we are giving more importance to the objects, less importance to the database management system. So if your application is front-end is object-oriented programming and your back-end is DBMS, in that case, you want your application, front-end application is totally based on object-oriented constructs and your back-end is based on DBMS. In that case, we can go for OODBMS. But your application is totally database management system, relational database management system like transaction processing. Transaction processing in the sense, if you go for like a share market, or if you go for big data analytics, or where we collect large amount of data, just we will apply some programming constructs. The data-centric projects can go for ORDBMS. And OOPS-centric projects with less data can go for OODBMS. Say in a banking sector, everything is based on transaction, credit, debit, balance, reports. So there they will focus, they give more importance to the data, less important to the programming. In that case, they can go for OODBMS. Say for example, if you go for the share market, just we collect the information, video surveillance, where we will collect data. The programming part is less. If there's some anomaly or some unexpected thing happen, then only we will go for rechecking the video. Otherwise, simply they will record and keep it. So in that case, we can go for ORDBMS. So the data-centric projects will go for ORDBMS, and programming object-oriented programming-centric projects will go for OODBMS. And ORDBMS is optimized for applications where large data collections are the focus, even though objects may have rich structure and be fairly large. So the big data analytics can make use of ORDBMS. It is expected that applications will retrieve data from disk extensively. So if you are collecting data, more data, and if the data is stored in the disk for longer time extensively, and that optimizing disk access is still a main concern for efficient execution. So if you are giving more importance to the database, disk storage, in that case, data warehousing places will go for ORDBMS. The query facilities of OQL are not supported efficiently in most OODBMS. So here in OODBMS, we will not give much importance to query processing. Here we'll give more importance to the object-oriented programming. If you give more importance to the programming, then you will go for OODBMS. If you give more importance to the data-centric projects, will go for ORDBMS. Whereas the query facilities and the counterpiece of ORDBMS. So if you want to apply more queries, if you want to extract data, if you want to create reports, if you want to analyze the data, big data analytics, you go for ORDBMS. If you want to focus on programming, processing, you go for OODBMS. So that is the main difference. So that any doubt with respect to the differences and similarities between OODBMS and ORDBMS? The next topic is called inheritance. The screen is visible. Okay, we'll stop with this topic. What is inheritance? Can anybody explain? What is inheritance?
Acquiring base class properties in the child class. No?
Yes, so we'll have the base class, and after 1 year or 2 years, say for example, if you take the taxing, India we are using taxing system now, income tax of India. So in the income tax of India itself, we have old regime and new regime, and the rules and regulations and the tax percentage is different in the old regime. Under the tax, say in old regime, we'll have, if your income is up to less than 5 lakhs per annum, no need to pay any tax. So tax is more than 7 lakhs per annum, you need to pay 10% of your salary. If your tax is more than 10 lakhs per annum, you need to pay, you will come under the slot of, you need to pay 20% of tax to the government. And if you go beyond 10 lakhs, you need to pay 30% tax. So if your tax income is more than, I think more than 20 or 25 lakhs, you need to pay 30%, 40% like that. So, but in case of new regime, the tax ratio is different. So, and we have some benefits for women's relaxation and other ATC, ATD, ATG. So like that, the rules and regulations are different. It changes time to time. So if you created a package, income tax calculation package or a software, 10 years, 5 years before, the same rules and regulations we cannot apply. So you need to update some concepts, or you need to add some new functions and modules which supports for new rules and regulations. So in that case, what we can do, we'll take the old class and we can create new classes that can make use of the base class as well as the derived classes can make use of the old class properties along with its own attributes and functions. So the inheritance means creating or reusing the existing class and adding new functions and features in terms of derived classes. So inheritance allows us to create new types called subtypes that extend existing types called supertypes. So the old type is called super type or base class or parent class. The newly derived classes are called subtypes or child classes or inherited classes. Any operation that apply to the subtype also apply to the supertype can also apply to the subtypes. So the base class properties are inherited in the derived class. So it means that the derived class functions overrides the base class functions. We can overload methods by defining the same method for sub and stereotypes. So you can create the stereotypes or extensions by making use of the operator overloaded functions and function overloaded. We have two concepts called function overloading as well as operator overloading. So the functions can be overloaded as well as operators can also be overloaded. So that is possible with the use of inheritance. I think this is our last slide. So this inheritance concept is possible with the help of object-oriented relational database management system. So this inheritance and adding new classes, new features of your existing tables is possible with the help of inheritance. So inheritance is nothing but reusing the existing old classes along with the new classes. With this, we are coming to the end of your module 1. I think today's class time up. So far we discussed in the module 1, the fundamental concepts, the motivating examples, structured data types, database design for ORDBMS, OODBMS, and comparing RDBMS and OODBMS and ORDBMS. So these are the topics given in your module 1. You just go through the content. If you have any doubt, you ask me in the next class. And we have other, I have prepared other materials also to explain the concepts. Okay, all of you mention your attendance in the chat box. And tomorrow's class, we will discuss the additional material. Okay, enter your attendance in the chat box. Those who entered can leave the class. All of you entered your attendance. I think tomorrow we have 2 hours now. Shreya, are you there? I think tomorrow we have 2 hours class, 9 to 9:50 and 11 to 12. Can you able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, which class? I think today we had 1 class now. Tomorrow, which class you want to free? As per the new updated timetable, tomorrow they mentioned 2 hours. I think 9 to 9:51, 11 to 12:1. So shall we have only 11 to 12 class? Or you want 9 to 9:50 class? Okay, discuss among yourself, you inform me. Or if you want both the classes, we'll discuss some additional material. Okay, I think all of you entered your attendance. Okay, in tomorrow's class, we will discuss. I think you had some doubts, no? Like reference types, collection types, literals, with respect to OQL, extensions, class keys. So this we will discuss in tomorrow's class. Okay, all of you entered your attendance. Shall I then end the meeting? Shreya, are you there? Shall I end the meeting? Okay, thank you all.